As we slowly say goodbye to Nicola Sturgeon and her damaging leadership in Scotland, I think it's time to talk about her so-called legacy. Here are some dark facts about Nicola Sturgeon as First Minister. Okay, let's pay our own tribute to the Queen of Memory Loss, Nicola Sturgeon, the woman who single-handedly managed to destroy Scotland and the Scottish electorate's well-being. This is quite fascinating because we are actually going to be talking about Nicola a couple of times today because there's been some reaction to her resignation from the so-called liberal leftist media and the cabal of the political establishment. But before we show you guys those reactions, let's talk about the truth, facts about the state of affairs in Scotland. So ever since she's been in power and ever since her party have been in power. Now, I'm just going to pick a few examples, not because otherwise we're going to be here all day if we talk about every single area. For example, when it comes to, we've talked about obviously education system, healthcare and everything else, and we are going to be talking about the detailed in terms of outcome, negative outcome. Life expectancy in Scotland, both for men and women, has been going massively down, even just before the first lockdown. So you can't really blame what happened in 2020 because it's actually been gradually going down since 2012, 2013, 2014, when Nicola Sturgeon slowly got to the top of power in the SNP establishment. That is very important because it's linked, the life expectancy is linked to many other things, including addiction and the NHS. So drug-related mortality and the problems that we've had is already been going up every year since the 2000s. But the moment Nicola Sturgeon became First Minister, the data that we have is between 1996 and 2001. But from 2015 onwards, you can see the massive escalation. And we haven't had even 1 year that's actually seen a positive decrease in the data because there's been no political appetite from the SNP establishment to do anything about this issue because they would say, well, people with drug-related issues, they probably don't even vote, so they probably don't even have a say, so let's just ignore them. And they won't become a problem in the future. The problem is, like a virus, it's been spreading, and it's been increasing the community of drug addiction victims, essentially, and those who are taking advantage of the situation. So, poverty-related attainment gap. This is bad because when it comes to literacy, numeracy, and other areas, for example, primary literacy, it's already been flatlining before her, and even until 2018, 2019, but it's actually been completely going down now. In terms of least deprived and most deprived, both figures, it's been going down. So basic education as well, basic poverty in terms of on a cultural level, on a health level, and of course on an education level, everything has been going down under Nicola Sturgeon's leadership. Let's talk about some other facts as well. Let's talk about the A&E waiting lists. Let's talk about the NHS in Scotland. Let's talk about how even until the late 2000s, so until 2010s, there was a short period of time that they had a good management. But again, the whole country was in a better state, and then you had obviously the financial crash. But regardless of that, even despite the fact that recovery happened eventually after those days, you can see since the moment Nicola Sturgeon became First Minister and her team took over the whole of the establishment, including the NHS Scotland, the numbers have been going down and down and down. So the 95% target for the A&E waiting times in the NHS Scotland have not been hit. Well, definitely not been hit, but it's been going down so badly that at this point, half of the people who are supposed to be receiving treatment, they don't on time. And that is absolutely scandalous. Now, in terms of the everyday scandals and all the big issues that happened, of course, we can talk about the obvious one. Yes, the ferry fiasco. We actually have the latest update on the ferry fiasco, the Ferguson Marine The firm has now cost the taxpayer nearly £500 million so far. Nothing's happened. When it comes to shipyards, part of the situation, whether it was, well, let's just nationalize to rebuild, no building. Whether it was to do subsidies to help to build, nothing happened. Whether it was a corporate lobbyist working hand in hand with the big government in Scotland, nothing happened. The whole of the industry is going down because of this toxic relationship between the state and big business, and they don't even know what to do. Because nationalization is not always the answer. Privatization also doesn't mean everything will be perfect either. Everything has to be case by case. Everything has to be pragmatic. But these people don't get it. Now, this is just one example under SNP's Glasgow City Council, but across the country in general, they have now been closing down schools. They are literally cutting teaching jobs and schools, not just reducing the number of jobs for teachers, actually closing schools. There's absolutely no legitimate excuse for them to do that. Completely destroyed the budget of the country, completely lost a lot of money, which we have talked about on a regular basis, and now this is happening. You wonder why people are getting sick and tired of just hearing about the referendum, because they have other problems to deal with first. There are other priorities when it comes to the well-being of Scottish people, rather than another few £1 million wasted on the referendum. Now, let's not forget free speech, the attack on free speech. Free speech is now completely banned in Scotland because they've decided to criminalise speech at the dinner table. So, Humza Yousaf, the pet project of Nicola Sturgeon, they did this legislation against free speech. So basically, it's more extreme than anything we've had, even in England or other places in the world. Well, the developed, civilized, democratic world. They basically said, if you say something, even as a joke, like even at a dinner table, in a private property, someone, if they get offended on behalf of someone else in a different country, in a different continent, that they haven't even met, they could sue you, and they could actually get the police to come and arrest you. That is literally the situation that we are currently facing. They tried to do some amendments with the speech, but actually, it's still the case. It's still completely damaging, and that is not really changing. And again, overall, let's not forget the biggest one. Nicola Sturgeon has continually, on a regular basis, been losing money. The money just keeps getting missing. I don't know where it goes. Some of the donations to her party that was meant to be for the referendum, that never happened. Some of the money that was given to her by the Westminster establishment, especially during lockdown days, that don't know what happened to that. There's been so many other examples of financial corruption, but again, there's been no appetite when it comes to the mainstream media in Scotland, because there's been a lot of friendly press and media journalists, or so-called journalists, just completely praising Nicola Sturgeon and her leadership. But we are here to tell the truth. I know she's going, but we have to talk about her dark legacy now, because she might get replaced by another nutter. Because it's not really just about her, it's about the culture that the SNP as a political party and as an establishment have been creating in Scotland. And it's not just related to Scotland, it's a classic problem that we are having in different places as well. In England with the mainstream political parties, in the United States with the Democrats and Joe Biden. It happens everywhere. We have to talk about it, and we have to talk about it now. Let me know your thoughts, and if you could remember, especially if you're in Scotland, you could remember any other scandal that she's been involved in, let me know in the comment section. I'll pick the best one, my favorite, and give you a shout out. I'm Mahyar Tousi, and we are the media.